CM Punk hasn't apologized to the Young Bucks over the AEW fight. MJF has commented on a potential match with Goldberg, and WWE are concerned about a top prospect. Stay tuned for all the deets. So it's still all up in the air, months on. Nobody's sure what's going to happen. Now it could be that AEW has an entire TV show, a hard brand split, stars not interacting with each other and really bending over backwards in order to facilitate all of the talent still working for the company but not working together, but working together but not working together at all.
Sounds like WCW, doesn't it?
I think that's where we are. But in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer has noted that the straight edge superstar has not made any attempt to make amends with Nick and Matt Jackson. However, it was also outlined, by the way, how disgraceful. Why wouldn't you apologize? Disgusting behavior.
Disgusting.
It was outlined by those close to Punk. They said the reason that he's not been in touch is that he's been told not to have any contact with them. Meltzer added nobody said whether Punk would or wouldn't apologize if he could. And there are reportedly many people who want everyone involved to make amends, and it was suggested that Punk apologizing would at least be an attempt at a way to do so. A future meeting between Punk, Jericho, FTR and Tony Khan is reportedly scheduled as a means to clear the air before the former AEW World Champions return, but it's likely that Punk's first feud back is potentially going to be with Jericho. So we've heard rumors that that's going to be the case for a wee while, that he's definitely not going to be working with the Elite, and they're going to keep them separate as much as possible. And Jericho, I think it's a good way to ease Punk back in if they can get everyone on the right page. Yeah, I think, you know,
Hangman.
I think it's a very, very, very messy situation, and it seems to just be getting messier and messier. And I would love to believe that we've all just been worked this entire time. I think it'd be fantastic, but
nice.
It's just starting to kind of just wear me out now. I think that Jericho is a good shout. I think, you know, going back with the amount of time they've worked together in the past, it should be like hand in glove. Both of them capable of, you know, really bringing it on the mic and in the ring.
Good matches as well.
So I think that it's sort of a no-brainer, especially, you know, if we're not going to get any interaction with the Elite.
Funny that they've been told they're not allowed to have any contact.
Yeah,
and it seems it's very like children, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you go sit on the naughty step. Don't bother your brother.
Don't say a word. No. You know, it's very. It takes me back to my childhood. That's for sure.
But looking toward that Jericho meeting, though, there's a little bit that kind of came out from Wade Keller of PW Torch, isn't there?
He said that internally people are not so confident about Punk's meeting with Jericho. He said, among the people I've talked to, there's not a high level of confidence that the meeting is going to go well, that it could actually make things worse. But maybe not. Maybe things will work out, but people who've been around Punk, know people who have known Punk for a very long time are not optimistic that FTR mediating a meeting between Jericho and Punk is going to lead to progress. That sounds incredibly positive, doesn't it?
Yeah, my letting agent's mate's dog knows Larry, cousin, who was sold to them by CM Punk's dog breeder, who knows a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend who knows CM Punk actually. And he said, I don't know, mate.
It's like the bit at the end of Ant-Man where he's like, is my brother's cousin's sisters, and he told me to tell you that. Yes.
It's, you know, I think that we've said this before, but, you know, in 10, 15 years, there's going to be a lot of very interesting shoot interviews about this whole thing.
I can't wait for the documentaries.
But I think that this is probably, you know, it's going to be a tense meeting. It's going to be a situation in which there's going to be a lot of very frank things brought up in a very frank manner, and it's going to be quite hard to swallow, I think, but it's important that it happens, and it's important that it is mediated, and it's important that, you know, people are there to kind of stay on top of it and hopefully help everybody find a way through it.
It's just interesting that it's FTR that's mediating it, because they are very pro CM Punk, and they're meant to be the impartial party there. I'm not saying that they won't be impartial, because they'll very likely will be.
Wrestling, innit?
Well,
you need a referee in there.
You do need a referee, and it could be your paid off referee, a corrupt official. But I think it'll be interesting to see how this meeting goes. Obviously, I'm sure we'll hear reports of that in the coming days. Punk's return is set for, or looks to be, June 17th at the United Center for AEW Collision, or whatever it's going to be called. Oh, it is an exciting time, but also I'm very worried that things could go wrong between now and then, because that's still 2 months away.
Yeah, it's quite ominous. But what is also quite ominous on the other side of the fence, and this one comes from the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer's reporting that noted there's a lot of absences right now in WWE due to injuries and other medical issues, with most of them being in the developmental system. Per Meltzer, there are currently about a dozen developmental talents out of action, including Amari Miller, Ariana Grace, Nikita Lyons, Roderick Strong, Sanga, Blair Davenport, Ulisa Leon, and several other trainees. On the main roster, you've got Big E, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, Ronda, Kofi, Bobby Roode, Tommaso Ciampa, AJ Styles, Aaliyah, Drew McIntyre, Johnny Gargano, and Carmella.
There's a bug going about, that's for sure.
Yeah, something's happening.
Something's wrong. Something's in the water.
It's just, best of luck to all of those talents on getting back fighting fit. But
and a lot of them are key main event talents, and it's interesting that, you've got your quite... AJ Styles has been out for quite a while, and he could be someone that you could position on the main roster as one of the top stars with with Roman Reigns. You've got the club there that you can have something with. Drew McIntyre, obviously he's been off TV. We don't know why, but dealing with an injury.
Yeah.
I'm excited for all these people to come back because it'll freshen up the roster a bit.
It will. It does show, though, that, for all we criticize how thick WWE's roster is, how densely packed and how populated it is, you do need that kind of depth in situations like this, right? Like, you can't just all of a sudden lose a load of people and be like, we've got no one to replace them. So it's sort of... thank God they have that to cover the spread, but we need these talents back. We do
need them back. It's a big absence, and I hope they recover soon.
You know what else is a big absence?
What's a big absence?
Goldberg and the world of wrestling.
This is your dream story, this one.
Yeah, it is. It is, because MJF took to Twitter to address a potential match with Goldberg. Now, in a tweet that was quickly deleted, Friedman wrote, and I'm quoting this here word for word.
What did you say, Sam?
He said, "I'd beat the living S out of this roided up Jew." The tweet was in reference to a post on Twitter about Goldberg potentially facing the AEW World Champion in All Elite Wrestling, and I think that it would be the funniest thing in the world if Goldberg popped up in AEW. I don't know how that fan base would, the more rabid side of the fan base would react to it, but Goldberg wants to do this potential 4-5 date retirement global tour. He said he wants to go work in Israel for one of the dates. He could do the Hulkamania revenge tour or whatever it was. But you know what I mean? Like he could go out there with the vanity tour.
Yeah,
he could build his own card and have his name all over it and brand it up with his tattoo or whatever.
Yeah.
But surely it's better to do it on a platform with a lot more eyes on it, where it's a kind of hot deal, especially if it's a one and done and it's really hyped as a one and done. I think AEW would be a natural spot when you look at the fact that Goldberg was, the guy. He was da man in WCW. What's AEW to WWE now but another competitor of WCW's size? So,
right. Do you think it's a good idea him coming in and facing MJF, or is there anyone else that you'd rather?
Give me Goldberg MJF.
You want that match?
Give me Goldberg MJF.
And we were talking about it upstairs, and we are thinking that probably the audience would respond quite well, because they know that he's going to likely be used in a different way. Hopefully he doesn't come in and then squashes MJF like he did Bray Wyatt.
He comes running down the ramp, blood pouring down the forehead.
Yeah, like
a big door corner mark right here, and then just quickly spears
but
MJF.
It's for sure one way to sell out Wembley.
Yeah,
if they're looking to have a big match on there and have an MJF in there,
it would tick off Britain, and I don't know what Goldberg's affinity for the UK is like, but the UK is one of the biggest wrestling markets in the world.
He loves the UK. I spoke to him just the other day. Loves it. He loves it over here.
People would be willing to turn up to wave goodbye to Goldberg, I think, and if you can negotiate things to a point where you have Kenny, the Elite and Punk in the mix, you're going to sell out Wembley.
You're going to sell it out quite well with
and
Goldberg
quite quickly.
On the card. And quite quick. You'd be
and not
day
just
one.
Bots. I'd be day one.
Dressed up as Goldberg, bald cap
buy
on.
the tickets, have a walk down Wembley. I'll probably get there next month.
You'd shave off the hair.
I'd go fully bald,
Mini Berg.
Do some squats, get healthy.
Anyone's free to Photoshop Sam as Goldberg.
On the point of AEW's Wembley sales, after it was announced that AEW would hold their first show in the United Kingdom on Saturday, August 27th at the world-famous Wembley Stadium, the promotion opened sign-ups for like an exclusive company pre-sale. The pre-sale is set to begin on May 2nd before tickets go on general sale on May 5th. 20,000 people quickly signed up for the all-in pre-sale, but the number has only continued to grow, reaching 45,000 by April 13th. In the latest update, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer reported that well over 50,000 people had requested codes for the all-in pre-sale as of Monday, April 17th. And All Elite Wrestling is averaging 1,500 new sign-ups every day, so the number now likely sits above 55,000. If everyone who signed up buys tickets, AEW's internal expectations will be blown out of the water, as the promotion will reportedly be happy with 40,000 fans in attendance. There's also said to be a lot of confidence about the show within AEW, and I don't see how they can't be, given that it's Wembley Stadium. This hasn't been done since SummerSlam 92, and Money in the Bank's back, but it's at the O2. It's not exactly in a big open air venue with quite, the fabled history of Wembley Stadium.
It's blooming Wembley. They're trying to sell it out.
It's like the country stadium,
right?
It's that important. So I think that with a good enough card, as we were saying there, there's no way they're not going to sell well. And I think that with a stacked enough card and with cheap enough nosebleed seats, you're going to sell out.
And it does look like the tickets are going to be reasonably priced. We've seen reports of saying that it's going to be between £30 for the cheapest of the cheap, and then going all the way up to your premium whatever
£7,000.
Yeah, for your ringside whatever seats. But 55,000 people already signed up for the pre-sale is an insane number. If every single one of them buys tickets, you still got 3 months. To sell out the rest of the show. I
don't know what demographics are like now, but wrestling has traditionally been a working class sort of sport to follow, right? Like it's sort of traditionally been that way here, at least. It felt like my posh mates never watched it, but all of us we watched it and we were loving it. But it feels like, if you endear yourself to that rather than, hey, it's Money in the Bank, but you have to also buy a SmackDown ticket and it's 500 quid. And if you just kind of go, no, it's 30 quid for nosebleeds, 100 for decent view.
And it's Wembley.
And also look at the card.
It's in the middle of summer where you can go and get drunk with your mates afterwards right by Wembley.
Yeah.
It's expensive for a pint there,
but... It's expensive, but it'll be fun.
Worth it.
But moving over now, just closing this one out with some news about one of WWE's highest hyped top prospects for quite some time now. It's been a long, long time, but we've been readily assured, over and over again.
Any guess who it is?
Is it Gable Steveson?
It's Gable Steveson. He's been training at the Performance Center for the past goodness knows how long. Since October, in fact, of last year, he's been in the Performance Center. He's been trying to be a wrestler for quite a while. According to Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, WWE wanted the two-time Dan Hodge Trophy winner to debut by now. But it's not quite panned out that way, as he hasn't lit the world on fire.
Yeah. The original idea was apparently he was going to do a college wrestling, which he's done, through the current season. But then they were going to bring him in for a couple of Raws, and he wasn't going to wrestle, but then he was going to make an appearance, and then it was all going to build toward his debut at WrestleMania this year, and then that never happened, obviously. Still hasn't happened. He'd retired after winning the Olympic gold medal, actually, after winning the NCAA championship last year, because he came back to the Olympics to win the NCAA championship. Then he retired, and he was going to go to WWE and all that. Obviously, this has not materialized either. He did have the surgery to repair Wolff Parkinson White syndrome. He had a wolf's heart. But this progress has not lifted, his standing, and it's not really got him to a point where people are really
they're not
seeing
happy
that
with his
fire
progress at all. Yeah. No, he's not lit the world on fire, and that they just think that he's not progressed to the point that his brother has.
Well, this is it. They think his brother's doing much better.
Damon Kemp in NXT, of course.
I think, it's always interesting looking at prospects over time, because it's one thing to look at talent and go, you will be a megastar, but you've got to admit the Gable Steveson thing has felt very Kurt Angle.
Yep.
It felt like they were going to kind of bring him in and just expect him to get it, like a la Ronda, when Ronda just turned up and got it.
She was good.
It's a very rare thing for that, especially coming from the outside world of super serious sports. I think that they've invested so much money in Steveson now that it can't not happen. but I think that there needs to be, maybe a lot more work going on in order to get him to that level.
They need to get him to that level. Meltzer also noted in the Wrestling Observer that the goal was for him to be the face of WWE, but internally there's been concerns that he was only going to be pushed because of his Olympic gold medal status.
Yeah, and I think that he's going to be a featured part of the card. He's still very young. He's got, a lot of time to really refine himself. I don't think they're going to kind of waver off completely because they have invested so much time and effort in just repeatedly bringing him out whenever they had him around and just go, look, it's Gable Steveson. So,
Big pop.
Yeah, it's something that I see on the cards, but maybe, it's going to take an extra couple of years. And the question really at that point is whether they're going to be prepared to invest that much time into it now. So
it's probably not worth it at this point, but let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, that's it for your second dose of lovely bumper weekend wrestling news. We'll be back in a little bit with more if there's any more that breaks. But if not, have a lovely weekend. There'll be a loud beep on your phone tomorrow. Don't worry about it. It's all loud and
fine
and crazy. Stick with us over the weekend. We've got a lot of good stuff coming on the channel. But otherwise, and everything else, have a good one. See you next time.